Yesterday, Martha returned in Torchwood. Today is her return to Doctor Who. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I am a geek, you are watching Kevin the Geek, and it is time for another New Who Doctor Who review. This time it is episodes number 4 and number 5 of the 4th series of Doctor Who. It is the Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky. Now if you are new to the channel, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you turn on the notifications so you can check out all of my Doctor Who reviews which I've done up to this point. You can see all the Torchwood reviews I've done up to this point. You can see all of the random rankings I've done for Doctor Who, amongst a multitude of other stuff. But of course today we're talking about the Sontaran Stratagem, and what better way than to start talking with the Sontarans first of all. And I have to admit, I of course haven't seen a lot of classic Doctor Who. Well, pretty much most of it, I would say. And that is something I will be looking to do at some point in the future. I will be looking to probably do reactions to the entirety of classic Who if I can, or at least obviously everything that currently exists. But the Sontarans, I've mostly ever really seen images of them. I definitely haven't seen any of the classic Who appearances. And the redesign of them, I really liked. I liked the update to the kind of suit that they're wearing. I think it has a much more kind of streamlined and military look to it, which is very appropriate given this kind of episode. And of course the face aspect of it was just more of a case of kind of smoothing it out with modern day prosthetics, which I do think it looks pretty damn good. But the Sontarans overall, they have an intriguing premise, and the episode does a really good way of explaining it to the casual fans or newer fans who may not have seen the Sontarans before.
The Sontarans are the finest soldiers in the galaxy. Dedicated to a life of warfare, a clone race grown in batches of millions with only one weakness.
Sontarans have no weakness.
No, it's a good weakness.
But you're meant to be clever. Only an idiot would provoke him.
No, but the Sontarans are fed by a probing vent in the back of their neck. That's their weak spot, which means they always have to face their enemies in battle. Isn't that really?
I wonder, and maybe you can let me know in the comments below if you know, but I wonder whether the whole Sontaran chant, I wonder if that chant is actually featured in Classic Who. It's something that felt really good and sort of at the same time a little bit out of place as well. The biggest way I could think to what they were trying to go for with that, if indeed this was brand new to the Sontarans with this episode, it feels almost like when you have the New Zealand All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby teams, when prior to a match they carry out the haka, which is a tribal sort of chant which came from the native Aboriginals in New Zealand, and it's designed to be almost like a war chant that you are how to word this, almost like you're trying to strike fear into your opponents. And when it comes to the rugby and the All Blacks, the common consensus that a lot of people feel is that a lot of teams, when they lose to New Zealand in the rugby, they lose at the haka because it's so intimidating. And that I think is the sort of angle that they were going for with this, with the Sontarans. If, again, like I said, this is how it was created. But I don't think it really worked as such, because it was never used in a kind of against the enemy kind of thing. It was more, if anything, almost like to hype themselves up for the war. So, well, they did do it towards the Doctor right at the end of the second episode. But yeah, other than that, it didn't really do that. So yeah, maybe it's just more to hype themselves up there. But maybe that's just a little thing. You know what I'm like. I have random thoughts and my mind goes off in a million miles an hour in different directions when I'm watching stuff. So these are the little things that I come up with. But of course, you have the return of Martha in this episode, and of course, yesterday I did my review of when she kind of came back, which chronologically, the stuff that she does in Torchwood comes before this. So if, of course, you missed that, then please do go back and check that out. It is in the playlist on the channel. Both in the episode in Torchwood and in this one, Martha just seamlessly slips back into the role. And it's like she's never been away in reality. She's just a great companion. And I do think that, and I mentioned it yesterday in my review in the Torchwood episode Reset, that I feel that she was very underused in Series 3 of Doctor Who. Maybe not underused, but used in the wrong way. Because they were just trying to go and make her fawn over the Doctor like a lovesick puppy. Whereas both here and in Torchwood, she is able to be a stronger character. The thing is, though, I would say that her appearance in Reset is a stronger appearance than here. Because, of course, Martha gets captured quite early on and gets turned into a clone. Which I feel, again, just misses the mark a little bit with Martha. Not to the same degree as a lot of stuff that they did with her in Series 3, but definitely here they could have done a bit more with her, in my opinion. Because even the scene where she gets kidnapped, in a way she almost turns into a bit of a damsel in distress. You know, as the camera pans away, she screams. You know, Martha's stronger than that. You know, I felt that was a kind of a weak moment there for her. The Doctor is on top form in this episode. And I've said it a lot in Series 4 that he is on top form, but he is. He really, really is. And with this one, I think what makes him so good in this episode is how he really tries to be underestimated by the Sontarans, by Unit, by a number of different people. Even the clone Martha, he tries to be really underestimated. And there's a lot of stuff that he does, which I think was really, really well written. Like when the Sontaran, when General Star first comes in, he kind of plays up to be kind of smart, but also a bit ignorant.
And your name?
General Stahl of the 10th Sontaran Fleet. Stahl the Undefeated.
Oh, that's not a very good nickname. What if you do get defeated? Stahl, they're not quite so undefeated anymore, but never mind.
And then, of course, as they're talking, you can see how the Doctor's mind is almost like a chess player. He's thinking like 10 moves ahead. So they're just having a nice, normal conversation. He casually walks over, picks up a racket, picks up a ball, which, you know, feels like a nothing kind of thing to do. But then it comes back, you know, maybe 30 seconds later, when he uses that, after explaining about the whole probic vent thing, he then uses that racket and ball to, you know, incapacitate the Sontaran so he can escape. And that is really, really clever with the Doctor. And he does it with a number of different ways in that. So, like I said, the way it was just written, I think that was just really, really strong. And Donna has some fantastic moments in this episode. Of course, we have the reintroduction between, well, not even so much a reintroduction, an actual introduction between the Doctor and Wilfred Mott, Donna's grandfather. Now, I was thinking about this today because it is well documented that Howard Attfield, who played Donna's father in the Christmas episode, The Runaway Bride, he was coming back for Series 4. And he, unfortunately, was really, really ill. He was, I believe, having chemotherapy at the time that he recorded his scenes for the first episode with Partners in Crime. And sadly, he was just getting way too ill. Had to step back. I think he actually broke his leg as well. And then, sadly, a little bit down the line, he sadly passed away. And so they reshot the scenes that they'd done for episode 1 and put in Wilfred Mott, the wonderful Bernard Cribbins. Now, this could have been an episode where they could have utilised that pre-existing footage that had already been shot and also the introduction to Wilfred Mott. I think that would have worked because you could have had Jeffrey Noble die off camera in between the episodes, and you could have had a really touching scene in this one where Donna gets informed of the passing of her father, because they don't actually ever really at any point acknowledge the death of Jeffrey Noble, apart from 2 instances, one in the Turn Left sort of alternative universe, and then, of course, in the End of Time, the final episodes with David Tennant when Donna gets married. So that's really the only reference they really put into it, and I think that could have been a really touching scene for this episode. You could have still done pretty much everything exactly the same, just have one additional scene. Donna comes back home. You have that long, slow walk, which I thought was beautiful. It's almost like, when you've been on holiday and you come back, it's being brought back to reality. And, I did it recently. I went to Portugal, and coming back, I was like, oh, yeah, just saying that only a few days ago, I was in Portugal and I was having this wonderful food. And, oh, yeah, and the day before that, I went on a boat trip. Donna has that same moment as she's walking back home and she thinks back to her adventures with the Doctor, and then she sees her grandfather. Yeah, like I said, that could have all been done exactly the same, but then you just have that moment where she really gets brought down to earth. That she learns of the passing of her father and she wasn't there. So that I think could have been a missed opportunity there. But, I mean, of course, it meant we did get one more episode with Wilfred Mott, a character I freaking love. The dynamic between Wilfred and Jacqueline, you really see that in this episode, which you haven't seen up to this point because their episodes and their scenes have always been separate. But here, this is where you first see them together. And they have a wonderful dynamic between them, even though I know that the lines were originally written to be between husband and wife. I think it still does work between father and daughter. Now, you have a lot of supporting characters in this one, a lot of supporting cast. Obviously, your main 3, I would say, would be the commander guy for unit. You've got Luke Rattigan, and you've got Ross, Greyhound 40. And for a character as small as he was, he had an amazing impact on this episode. The Doctor said it so many times.
You're smarter than the usual unit grunts. I'll give you that.
He called you a grunt. Don't call Ross a grunt. He's nice. We like Ross.
And that scene, when he gets killed, was ultimately to demonstrate the incompetencies of UNIT, and also the dangerousness of the Sontarans. The anger that the Doctor kind of came out with after he dies. That, I think, just sums up how every person watching that episode was feeling.
Greyhound 40 report.
It wasn't Greyhound 40, his name was Ross.
he wasn't a rank and number. He had a name. He was nice. And you basically contributed to his death. Don't be a dick. Get your men out of there and prevent further deaths. Now, there was a nice little reference to the Brigadier, of course, from Classic Who, which, again, he was originally planned to come into this episode. They would have featured him, but again, he was sadly just too ill and he couldn't do any filming for that. He hadn't passed away at this point, but they really wanted to use him, and so they had to kind of find a workaround on that. And I think that is... They handled it in the right way, that it wasn't too heavy-handed to disrupt the flow of the episode, but it was enough to give a nice nod to all those classic fans who were watching this episode. And Luke Rattigan is a character that is very divisive, but I think he worked in the role that he was meant to be. He was intended to be a spoilt brat. He was intended to be a jerk, a character that you didn't want to root for. And they tried to do it in such a way that you would feel sympathy towards him at the end of the episode when he sacrificed himself to stop the Sontarans, doing a whole sort of murder-suicide thing. I personally don't feel it quite landed in the way that they intended, but it worked as a scene. It just, the emotional impact for me just didn't land where they wanted it to. Now, if you are new to my Doctor Who reviews, what I do with every episode is I score each one a score out of 100 by giving 10 different categories a score out of 10. I use them to help me rank and decide which are the best episodes of Doctor Who. So, let's check out my scores for the Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky. And so this episode scores 79 marks out of 100, which means it is a B+ episode. I think that some people unnecessarily slate on this one. I think it was a pretty strong episode throughout. It did kind of die off a little bit in the second part, which does happen with a lot of the two-parters. There really isn't that many two-part stories which are consistently strong throughout, and I don't think that there is, again, many that are consistently weak all the way through. They normally have at least one part that is stronger than the other. Majority of the time it does tend to be the first part that is the stronger part, but I like this one. I really did. What are your thoughts to this one? Please drop your comments down below. Now, of course, we are getting towards the end of Series 4, and I will do the specials afterwards, but coming up later this year, of course, we do have the Doctor Who 60th anniversary month, and so I have plans for that. I'd ideally like to try and do some watch-alongs with that if I can manage to do so. I have some rankings for Doctor Who planned for that. Of course, I'm going to continue doing my Torchwood reviews, which once I get to the end of Series 2, of course, I'm going to do Children of Earth and Miracle Day. Lots of different stuff, and I did find out today that the footage with Howard Atfield that he recorded prior to Series 1, not Series 1, Episode 1 of this series, and that was actually included in the DVD release. So that is going to be available, and so what I'm going to try and do at some point is I'm going to look to do a reaction to that, because I've never actually seen that footage, and I'd like to see how different it is and how, the character of Jeffrey Noble would have worked had he, been able to complete the rest of the stuff for Series 4. But that's going to do it for this episode and this review of the Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky. Thank you so much. Remember to subscribe to the channel and check out all of my other content. But for today, my name's Kevin. I am a geek, and you've been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.